Your mother would have loved this, said my dad one night in December as we all sat in the living room watching our favorite Christmas movies. He said this every single year. My name is Sammy, and I live with my dad, stepmom, and sister Michelle. When I was 5 years old and Michelle was 3, something happened to our family that would change us forever. Before I tell you what happened, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell if you never want to miss out on another great story. Thanks, you're the best. I didn't really remember much about my mom. I know she was kind, and she always read us stories before bed. She made us our favorite meals and always said nice things to us. But as time went by, I was beginning to forget what she looked like. My dad loved my mom. I remember that they were always hugging or joking with each other. Our house was filled with happiness. Then one day, my mom didn't come home. My dad was an architect, and he worked from home. He would usually pick us up from school and make us dinner, and Mom would come home at about 6 o'clock. I remember this because it was always while my father was watching the news, but that night was different. He finished watching the news and looked a bit worried. "What's wrong, Daddy?" Michelle asked in her innocent little voice. "Your mom should be home by now, but she isn't. Anyway, I'll read your bedtime story tonight," he said and smiled. He tucked us both into bed, then went back to the living room to wait for our mom. The next morning, we woke up to sirens. When we went downstairs, there were 2 policemen there, and my dad was talking to them. "My wife didn't come home last night. I have no idea where she is. I've tried calling her, but I can't get through," my dad said in a panic. It seemed like he was going to burst into tears any second. I held on to Michelle, who started crying. "Don't worry, she'll come back," I said, trying to comfort her. My dad kept us home from school that day and the next, but my mom never showed up. He stuck posters all over the neighborhood, had several interviews on television begging her to come home or for anyone who knew anything to contact him, but there was no luck. She never came back. My dad became so depressed that my grandma had to come help to take care of us. When I was 9 years old, he met Tracy, my stepmom. He became happier again, and before he knew it, we were flower girls at their amazing wedding. Finally, we had a normal household again with a mom and a dad. Tracy was really kind to us. In fact, she was the best stepmother anyone could ever ask for. She did all the things my mom used to do and more. So I grew up into a happy teenager with a nearly perfect life. I went to a great school and had many cool friends. I loved theater, and I got all the leading roles in every single play I auditioned for. I was also the head of the cheerleading squad, and to top it all off, I was a straight A student. But you know what they say, when everything is great, something is probably going to go wrong soon, or a bit crazy. And that is exactly what happened. It all started during one of my plays. We were putting on a modern-day television of the Addams Family, with our own little twist. I was playing the role of Wednesday. I had invited my whole family to come, and they were all there. Just before the scene, which required me to chase Cousin It off the stage, the theater door opened and a woman walked in. I froze and forgot all my lines. She looked just like my mom. "Sammy, snap out of it," Cousin It whispered, and I did eventually. After the play, I felt weird. Was I losing it? "I could have sworn I saw Mom tonight," I said to Michelle after dinner. "What? Where?" she replied. "At the play. She walked in and I froze. You don't remember that?" I said. "Oh, I thought you just forgot your lines. Anyway, it can't be Mom. She's gone. Just go to sleep and you'll feel better tomorrow," Michelle said, then went to bed. Although she was younger, she was more logical and always gave good advice. I listened to her and fell asleep. A few days later, my whole family and I were gathered in the living room watching a documentary about solar systems when we heard a knock on the door. "Who could be here so late? Maybe they're lost," my dad said. "Maybe it's a burglar," Michelle whispered. "Burglars don't knock on your door, silly," I said while poking her arm and laughing. We all got up and followed my dad to the door. He opened it and a woman jumped into his arms. "Oh, Fred, I've missed you so much, my darling husband," she said. I was about to get a baseball bat so I could hit her with it when I froze. Michelle froze too. The woman let go of my dad and stared at us in awe. "My babies! Oh my babies! You have grown so much. I've missed you so much. Babies, come here and give Mom a hug," she said. It really was my mom. And here she was after disappearing for all those years. Tracy just stood there awkwardly. I mean, what else was there to do? Eventually, she suggested that we go to the dining room for tea. "What happened to you? Where did you go?" "I've been worried sick. I'm remarried, though. Tracy is my new wife," my dad said after a long silence. My mom scowled. Then she smiled. "I was kidnapped. I was taken away to another country and forced to work in a factory. It was awful. I wasn't allowed to communicate with anyone. I never got a chance to use a phone or computer, so there was no way to contact you. It was like I was in prison. I was so miserable and I didn't know what to do. Then a few weeks ago, I was in bed and one of the guards left the room for a while. I snuck out through a small bathroom window and ran until I could find somebody to help me. They let me live with them and one day gave me enough money for a plane ticket to come back home, she said. But what about the kidnappers? Why didn't you go to the police? My dad asked, shocked. This story was too much for everyone. They're too powerful and I didn't want to risk being heard of or found again. I just wanted to come home, she said. Then she started crying. Do you have somewhere to stay? My dad asked. No, I don't. I have nothing, just the clothes on my back, she said. Well, you can stay here then, don't worry, he said. I looked over at my stepmom and she looked a bit confused. But I guess we couldn't turn my mom away. She was family after all. Thank you so much, Fred. By the way, I snuck into your play the other night, Sammy. You were wonderful, she said. So it really was her all along. That night, we went to bed really late. Michelle and I stayed up with our mom and told her about everything that happened after she left. We felt so happy to have her back. When we woke up the next morning, she had already made breakfast and laid the table. She remembered our favorites, and it seemed like she prepared them all so lovingly. My stepmom walked in with a worried expression on her face. It's Sunday. I usually make protein shakes for breakfast on Sundays, she said. Tracy was a person who loved routines, and anything that came in the way made her angry or anxious. Oh, relax, sweetie. It's only one day, plus I'm their mom and I know what they like, she replied a bit aggressively. At that moment, my dad walked in. Wow, it's all our favorite foods. You really shouldn't have, honey. You've outdone yourself, he said. My stepmom frowned and left the room. We all enjoyed our breakfast, then our mom suggested that we go for a walk. My dad stayed home with Tracy, so it was just the three of us. We went to a mall and we treated our mom to whatever she wanted since she had no money. We went strolling through the park and spoke about so many things. It was great catching up with her, and we were so happy that she was back. Later we went to watch a movie and we got home at about 9 that night. You know it's past your curfew, young ladies. It's a school night. Go shower and get ready for bed, Tracy said as we opened the door. How dare you speak to my daughters like that? My mom said. They're my daughters too. I can't allow you to come here and ruin everything, Tracy replied. It was then we realized that the two women would never, ever get along. The next day when we got home from school, we heard Tracy screaming. I just cleaned the carpet and she threw dirt all over it. I threw dirt? This house is a filthy mess. When I left, it was clean, and years later this place looks like a garbage dump. You call this cleaning? Our mom screamed back. I know you threw this dirt here on purpose, Tracy screamed again. Ladies, what's the matter? My dad asked. Tracy explained her side of the story. Well, have you considered that maybe you just missed a spot? He said. A spot? A spot? There is dirt all over the rug, she shouted. We opened the door and walked to the living room to observe for ourselves. It was clear that our mom had made it dirty because it was clean when we left. But we said nothing. Stuff like this happened for the next few weeks. Tracy would clean and our mom would mess it up. Tracy would cook a wholesome, healthy meal and our mom would order pizza. Our dad took our mom's side every single time. Our mom also used our dad's credit card and spent his money on all sorts of things. He didn't seem to mind. Michelle and I tried not to take it all too seriously, but one night we had the shock of our lives. It was probably midnight. I got up to get some water and Michelle followed me quietly. Before I reached the kitchen, I heard some muffled voices. I walked closer to listen. I still love you. I've always loved you, our dad said. I love you too, Fred. You need to leave your new wife, our mom replied. They kissed for a long time. We turned around because it was gross, then we realized that Tracy was standing behind us. She had heard it all. You dog! I hate you! How could you do this to me? She said while picking up a huge vase and aiming it at my dad's head. He ducked and it shattered to pieces on the wall. She went upstairs, packed a bag, and left. We never saw her again. The next few days, my mom and dad behaved just like they did when we were little, always joking and wrapped up in each other's arms. It's like my dad didn't even remember that Tracy existed. I sort of felt bad because she was a really nice lady who had been so kind to us. She didn't deserve this. Then, like deja vu, we returned home from school one afternoon and our mom was gone. She was just in the living room. I went upstairs to shower and when I come back, she was gone, my dad said while crying. Maybe she just went for a walk, Michelle suggested. But days passed and she never returned. Did she leave on purpose? Did the kidnappers return for her? We had no idea and nothing made sense. I spent most of my time moping around the house. Everyone was depressed. Go out to the mall and do something you enjoy, my dad suggested one Saturday. He handed me and my sister $100 each, and we left. We had to walk to the bus stop, and on our way, we both had a strange feeling like we were being followed. Ah! I heard Michelle scream. I turned around, and a man dressed in black had placed a bag over her head. Before I could say anything, the same thing happened to me. I kicked and screamed, but I couldn't overpower the person holding me. I felt like I was in a car for a few hours. Then I felt myself being carried upstairs, and after, it sounded like we were on a plane. I fell asleep, so I don't know how long we were flying for. I felt us land and woke up. Let me out! Where am I? Michelle, are you still there? I screamed. I'm right here, she said. We were carried down the stairs and put into a car again. After driving for a few hours, we were taken to another location and the bags were taken off our faces. The men left. There was so much light, I felt like I was being blinded. Welcome to Thailand, a voice said. I stared at the person speaking to me and I couldn't believe it. Mom? I asked. Did you have us kidnapped? Why are we here? Are you crazy? Michelle said. It was the only way. I'm so sorry. Anyway, the story I told you all back at the house was a lie. I was tired of my life, so I ran away to Asia. I live here with my new husband and my 3 children, your brothers and sisters. I want you to live here with me. I only came back so I could get you kids back. I missed you so much and I wanted you to live with me, she said. Look around. This could be your new home, she continued. Her house was like a palace. Her husband came to meet us and our new siblings just stared at us silently. Anyway, I won't force you to make a decision. You can stay here for a few days and make up your mind later. If you want to go back to your dad, I'll let you, she said. I looked at Michelle and she looked back at me. We said nothing to each other. What do you think we did? Tell us in the comments and maybe I'll reveal this to you in part 2.